the unsinkable legend. Oh wait, it's not a whaler. The unsinkable imposter.
Honey, just talked with Bob and Cindy. They're coming over. I told them we'd take them and their kids for a quick spin around the bay.
Spin around the bay? Like when?
Well, they're on their way over now. I mean, is it that big of a deal?
Ah, geez, just so we're clear, you want me to get off the boat, turn off the dockside water, hop back on, unhook the water hose, then climb into the breaker box, shut off the shore power, then climb back out on the dock to unhook the power, then get back on the boat to turn on the blower just to warm up the motors because we want to go for a spin around the bay? I'm just about to crack my first beer here.
Oh, and before I forget, I think it's supposed to get a little chilly. So could you put up all the canvas?
Ugh, then get in the cabin, find all the canvas, and go through the pain in the ass of zipping all that in? Just for a spin around the bay?
And I know you cleaned the whole boat today, and it looks great and all that, but you're not gonna make our guests take their shoes off, are you? Oh, and look, I got some fudgesicles for the kids to enjoy while we go for a ride. I know they're just gonna love them. Don't worry, I'm sure they'll be careful. You know how much little kids respect other people's property.
Oh my god, woman. Okay, water is unhooked, power unplugged, canvas up, motors up to temp. Where the hell are Bob and Cindy?
Oh, shoot, just got a text. Looks like they can't make it after all.
Oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Meet the boat for your boat. Seriously, if your cruiser could ask for a pet, this would be it. It's the simpler solution, the easy way. It's the golf cart, the lazy boy, the microwave, the Google Assistant, the slap chop. It barely burns any fuel. It launches in minutes. You fish from it, pull tubers, go to the beach, go for a spin, take it island hopping. It's the ultimate utility vehicle. It's not perfect, but it can do everything pretty great in a nice, small, easy-to-use package. So I know I started by calling this thing the unsinkable imposter because, well, it's not a Boston whaler. Yeah, it looks pretty much identical to one, but this actually is a 155cc from Edgewater.
What the hell's an Edgewater? Must be some off-brand whaler wannabe.
You can't fairly call this a wannabe, and for one very important reason. Alright, look at the badge. See the name? That name refers to the legendary designer and co-founder of the actual unsinkable legend Boston whaler, Bob. Okay, without going too deep into it, after being Boston whaler through and through for 30 years or so, Bob got a little annoyed with Whaler's new owners, Reebok. Yeah, I don't get that acquisition either. Anyways, he decided to team up with his son and create Edgewater Boats in 1992. Bob and company have since moved on and founded another company, Everglades in case you were curious, but not before designing this little gem.
Alright, so it's just a whaler by another name.
That's not really a fair assessment either. As if creating legendary hull designs wasn't enough, for Edgewater, Bob decided to completely reevaluate the manufacturing process and how boat building is done. Wood-free permagrid construction, vacuum-bagged resin injection, even the structural design and joining is different in these boats. So yeah, this little guy, you could argue, is not a whaler wannabe, but oof, I'm gonna get hell for this. Is it a whaler upgrade? Or maybe you could argue the whaler that could have been had Bob stayed put?
Upgrade, dude, calm down. It's a 15-foot long bathtub with a steering wheel.
Alright, I'll give you this. You're right, it's just a dinghy, but man, this thing packs a lot in 15 feet. Stereo, cooler, bimini, dual batteries, cup holders, live well, anchor storage. It's pretty loaded. And I love all the stout, hossy little touches they put on this thing. Look at the thickness on this plexi. And I love the higher rails surrounding the deck, the oversized 30-gallon internal fuel tank. It's all this subtle stuff that just kind of adds up. And of course, it has this self-bailing hull, so it's unsinkable. And here's something you don't typically get in a whaler this size. A padded helm seat with a back. Hell, Boston Whaler charges you an arm and a leg and all you get to sit on is a plank of wood. Almost like some kind of twisted inside paddle joke that Whaler plays on the consumer. Hell, this boat you can even drive from a standing position. I seriously could reach all controls in complete comfort while standing without needing to hunch over or lean on anything. Even with the bimini up, I had enough headroom. Granted, I'm not the tallest human being in the world here, but still, it's a nice touch. That's not to say there aren't quirks here. Because of that self-bailing cockpit and the fact it's only 15 feet, they really couldn't solve some issues. First off, the owner had to install these check valves on the scuppers as I guess water was always pumping in coming off plane, launching the boat, or even just standing near the stern. The transom bolts for the motor bracket are lower than the floor, so they had to make this little sump box area to allow access, but obviously that can't self-bail, so that has to be pumped out if you want to keep it dry. And the anchor storage is useless as anything other than anchor storage because it too is lower than the floor. It can only drain through the hull, so it's constantly wet as you walk up front. I guess it just pumps full of water. This is really nitpicky stuff though, folks. I mean, I get the quirks because, yeah, it's a 15-foot boat. I'd take the priority of self-bailing over the small inconveniences, so I'm not going to hold it too hard against him. Okay, at this point, you're probably thinking of this thing as just some kind of toy with a few tidbits added on. It's the grandpa version of a jet ski. Sure, it's got a little space, but it's just for a quick laugh, a little spin to scratch some kind of itch, or just go kill 30 minutes in calm conditions. But after the owner insisted I drive it, okay, I have to say I get why he was so insistent. This little boat is scrappy, especially in the chop. This little guy can take a ton of abuse and keep you feeling confident. Owner of this thing was an Edgewater junkie. He owned 3 different ones. He kept telling me, you should see this little guy in 3-footers. My kids take it out in 3s all the time. I mean, how do you nicely say, yeah, well, kids are stupid. And never having driven anything in this size, I was eager to oblige. And well, I felt the need to test his theory and test its limits a little. And you know what? He was kind of right. You can confidently toss it around in some sloppy water. Keep in mind, it's all probably very relative, but it felt like I was driving this little thing in serious wakes and rollers. I was impressed how well this thing just popped up and over just about everything that came its way. Even when it'd catch the occasional white cap, it'd just burrow its little front V right on in and just pop up and over. And since it's rocking that famous giant reverse chine, aka the whaler smile, it kept nearly all the spray down or out, making it a pretty dry ride. I don't know, I just got the feeling the boat can take more than you can. And while no 15-foot is going to be some kind of wave crusher, this one really behaved like it thought it was. It's for sure no corner carver. While it tracked and turned in fine, hard turns seemed to require almost full throttle just to keep on playing, and it just didn't seem happy playing jet ski. And while the 70 horse was adequate, it sure needed some serious RPMs to keep it on plane. 4,100 RPM is bare minimum to stay on plane. Anything less than it would quickly roll off a wave or wake and just lose all its steam and start to trail off like some poor winded runner accepting defeat. But I got the sense it's not necessarily a fault so much as a sacrifice paid for the way it handles the rough stuff, like a bigger boat. But the beauty is, it's not a bigger boat. It just thinks it is. Trailering, cake. Docking, please. Cleaning, all you need is a hose and 10 minutes of your time. Bimini sets up in 30 seconds. Top speed, GPS read 32, but damn if it didn't feel like 50. Draft, not even a foot. Engine maintenance, it's a Yamaha 2-stroke. They borderline thrive on neglect. Fishing, yeah, I'm guessing it's tight. And you get tossed around a good bit at anchor, but thanks to the hefty rail that wraps around that windshield, you always have a nice place to grab hold. Yep, this thing can do a lot with 15 feet. Is it better than a whaler? Oof, I don't know if I can fairly go there. On paper, I think it's even. The big difference is that whalers are, well, they're expensive for what they are. They have a killer reputation, and consumers have accepted that you gotta pay to play. And as they've barely changed their recipe over the years, they've held their value pretty well. I think everyone knows that already. Generally, people think the higher cost is worth it. Edgewater, on the other hand, well, pretty reputable. It's a much smaller fish in the pond. And as the center council pond continues to grow and grow these days, it's a bit harder to stand out from the crowd. So while just as capable and well built, arguably better, they tend to sell for a little bit less. Although, thanks to the white hot center council market these days, prices across the board seem to continue to hold, or even climb in the used market. Let's be real though, this is rarely someone's only boat. This is the boat to complement the other boat. The boat you use to go boating because you need a break from your boat. Does that even make sense? To be fair though, it really could serve as your only boat. It has the capability and function to easily host a fun day on the water for 1 or 2 people comfortably, confidently, and easily. Big boats require big commitments, more time, more money, more work. And there gets to be a point where your boat almost begins demanding more from you than you from it.
I'm thirsty. I want a new outdrive. Give me wax. I want new bottom paint.
Meanwhile, if the Edgewater had a tail, it'd be wagging every time you showed up at the dock. It wants your attention, and it wants to show off for you. I felt like I should have had a bag of treats on me to reward it. Who's a good boat? Who's a good boat? Really, your only job is to keep it from running in the street and getting run over because it really doesn't have any idea of its own size or limitations. There's something to be said for owning a boat that never requires anything from you besides an occasional pat on the head and a tubby rub. If all you ever owned was a 15-foot Edgewater, just know that every time you pass one of those big cruisers, it may feel like they're looking down on you from their flybridge, but emotionally, they're actually looking up at you in genuine envy. They pass you in your 15-foot and probably start to reminisce of simpler days, maybe when owning the boat wasn't the equivalent of having some kind of monster rape their free time and bank account, and they start to even question, should they be thinking about buying a Boston whaler? No, they shouldn't, because it's not a Boston whaler, you butt munch. It's an Edgewater. This is BoatBrain saying, it's not the size that matters. Till next time.